Alrighty, saw this on my lesser used browser again. Germany's first African-born MP quits amid racist abuse. Well, let's get into it.
And finally, from Germany, the nation's first African-born member of parliament, Karamba Diaby, has announced his decision to step away from politics after enduring years of racist abuse. The 62-year-old MP, who began his tenure in 2013, has communicated that he will not be contesting in the upcoming federal election. The MP says that he and his team have been subjected to hate mail, racist name-calling, and even death threats. Our next report explains the MP's turbulent political career.
On a cloudy morning in September 2013, a chemist born in Senegal received a warm welcome in Germany's parliament.
So first off, I'm just going to say, he's not even born in Germany. So in my opinion, bare minimum, you have to at least be born in Germany to get into politics. That's my opinion.
There's curiosity and, of course, about what's coming. But little did he know, the turmoil in his political career had just started. Soon after taking his seat, Karamba Diaby was beaten up. He received death threats and insulting emails and was left scarred for being a black man. An alarm was raised when the German MP discovered bullet holes in the windows of his constituency office. Taking to social media, Diaby wrote that he was horrified and shocked with the hate he was receiving. But nothing shunted his morale, and he vowed to fight back. However, very soon a series of death threats quickly took over Diaby's political career. On a near-daily basis, he was intimidated up to an extent that Germany had to toughen online speech laws.
So it's horrible that his office got shot up, and the yeet threats, yeah, they're horrible. But how they say that Germany had to toughen online speech laws, I'm just going to throw it out there. What if the German government let this guy get into politics because they knew exactly what would happen, and then they could use that to censor online speech? Just a thought I had. So in this article here, in several interviews, Mr. Diaby has noted the increasingly hostile atmosphere he has had to contend with in the parliament and society, attributing it to the 2017 entry of the populist AfD party into the Bundestag. Now, I hope the AfD had nothing to do with these incidences, but continuing, since 2017, the tone in German Parliament has become harsher, he told the Berlin Playbook podcast of Politico. We hear aggressive speeches from colleagues of the AfD. So I'm guessing he's referring to the whole everything for Germany speeches and such. Anyway, continuing. We hear derogatory and hateful content in these contributions. That is truly a totally new situation compared to the period between 2013 and 2017. This aggressive style of talking is fertile breeding ground for violence and aggression on the streets. Well, when people were peacefully trying to talk about mass immigration and what it's doing to the native population of Germany, they got called racist, so they became more aggressive in their style of talking. More recently, after receiving a yeet threat, the MP wrote on Instagram, "For me, the level of hatred and antagonism has reached a new level. I now encounter it every day in the news and commentaries, but also in the German Bundestag." So again, I feel bad for this guy, but the German population was basically pushed into a corner. They can't peacefully talk about their issues. They can't peacefully protest without being called racist. So they get desperate. And what happens when people get desperate? Well, there's a saying, desperate times, desperate measures. It's not the first time this has happened. How did Mustache Man come into power? The German people were desperate and destitute, so they gravitated towards a man they didn't fully understand. And yeah, I know what you're going to think. Well, why are there some Germans that vote SPD, Social Democrat Party? Well, they're probably told that diversity is a strength and it needs to be protected and that it's the way forward for Europe. When I was a kid, I was told that diversity was a strength and it needed to be protected. It wasn't until I got older and I started seeing what was happening to Europe that I started scratching my head and going, hey, wait a minute. If diversity needs to be protected, what about Europe's native diversity? What happens when you let in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of non-ethnic Europeans? Speaking of natives, let's talk about the Native Americans. Now, as you may or may not be aware, I'm Canadian. I'm constantly reminded that I'm not native because I'm white. And people say that what happened to the Native Americans was horrible. I would say what's happening to the Native Europeans is even worse. Why? The Native Americans had this thing called choice. For example, they chose to help the Europeans. They chose to trade with the Europeans. They chose to fight for the Europeans. And then finally, they chose to fight against the Europeans, i.e., white man. You can look up Tecumseh if you want. So, do the native Europeans have a choice? In my opinion, no. I mean, yeah, people are saying this AfD party is the second largest party in Germany. So, doesn't mean they're going to get anywhere. That Marie Le Pen, she was very popular. Then what happened? She lost. Trump was very popular. Then what happened? He lost. And now, once again, Trump is building up popularity and he's gaining momentum. And what's the media saying? He's a threat to my democracy. Even though all these people are supporting him, democracy's supposed to be the popular vote and all that, the will of the people, but the people aren't voting the way the politicians, the powers that be, want them to vote, so it's threat to my democracy. Anywho, that's my thoughts on the matter. Take care out there in Clown World.